I'm J. Rachel Edidin.
And I'm Miles Stokes.
And we're the hosts of Rachel and Miles Explain the X-Men, a weekly podcast all about the ins, outs, and retcons of our favorite superhero soap opera.
We're also the hosts of Rachel and Miles Review the X-Men,
which you're watching right now,
where we talk about the X books that come out each week.
Now this week we are looking at the books, or rather the book, of December 23rd, 2015.
Let's check it out.
Our first and only X book this week is Extraordinary X-Men number 4, written by Jeff Lemire, penciled by Humberto Ramos, inked by Victor Olazaba, and colored by Edgar Delgado. And, this is a series that's been off to a very slow start. It is gradually improving, which is nice. This is definitely my favorite issue that's come out so far.
Very much so, yeah.
And it's the issue where it's feeling like we're finally getting a sense of what the big plot is going to be at last 4 issues in.
What I think is more important to me than the plot, though, is that Lemire seems to be grasping the characters' voices in a way he really hasn't in any prior issue.
Yeah.
It actually reminds me a little bit, very different run, but it reminds me a little bit of when Bendis took over X-Men. And his first few issues just didn't seem quite right. And part of it, I think, was that we got used to the way Bendis wrote the X-Men. Part of it, I think, was that he just got a better feel for how the X-Men talked, the way they were differentiated from one another, the way they acted in certain situations. I think we're starting to see that here.
That's possible, but at the same time, we're also seeing a different focal cast in this issue than we have in many of the previous ones. And honestly, I think part of the impression about the character voices improving in this is that there's less Jean, who was one of sort of the big weak points earlier on. And more Iceman. Lemire writes really good Iceman.
Turns out, yeah.
Very impressed. That's rare.
I also thought he nailed Sinister in this. Now, there are many ways to write Mr. Sinister. You can have very sort of full of himself, very smug Sinister. You can have super sciencey Sinister. You can have scary Sinister. And Lemire has chosen to go for, I just enjoy being a villain so much, mwahaha, aren't I amazing Sinister? And I think that's pretty great, because that's one of my favorite Sinisters.
Yeah, his Sinister is one who is a mad scientist, but you get the impression, does the science largely as a background for the theatricality, which is great. Sinister is all about presentation. I mean, yeah, you don't dress like that if you don't want to make an entrance.
That said, the use of Sinister in this, sort of the reason he's in the plot, the way he's dealing with mutants and the humans, I kind of buy that. Because, I mean, his whole premise as doing everything to deal with Apocalypse, that's sort of over. Apocalypse is currently dead, for the moment at least.
Until Apocalypse War.
Well, that's only a one-issue event for each book it's in. But yeah, so him jumping into something like this, it involves mutants, it involves genetics, okay. It involves having a new team of Marauders, which, well, I like the old ones much better, but still, okay.
As far as the actual story, man, I am... At this point, what Cyclops did is just the Noodle Incident of the Marvel Universe. It's ridiculous. It's gone from something that's going to be revealed to an ongoing game of I know something you don't know. And yeah, at this point I actually kind of hope they never reveal it. It just becomes a running joke.
I like
never
this
actually again
make it a little more
Incident.
Complicated and less plausible every time you hear a detail about it.
You just drop in little things like, oh yeah, is that why there were all those sirens at around noon? I don't remember the exact line. I used to have those strips memorized.
I fully believe that.
They're so good. So good.
Speaking of things that are so good, can we talk about Piotr Rasputin's beard, his metal beard?
Oh my god! Piotr Rasputin's beard is so great, and his haircut is so great. He looks amazing in this, and somehow his beard looks even better upside down, which is good because he's upside down for a lot of this issue.
I don't know. I have no idea how this would look.
It's superlative. The art in this, honestly, I really, really like. Ramos is an artist who can be a bit exaggerated in ways that don't always work for me, but here I don't know if it's the style he's doing or if it's the entire art team, but he's really, really working for me.
Yeah, what I especially liked was, it was mainly in the first few pages, there's this sort of flashback / dream sequence thing, and the art gets a lot sketchier, the colors get a lot more muted, and it's got this really evocative aesthetic that I enjoyed the hell out of.
Yeah, it's got that sequence in particular has a very, very Eric Powell vibe to me.
Yeah, it looks a little bit like the Goon, I agree.
Yeah, so it's a strong issue. Do we want to talk about the big reveal at the end? There's a big reveal at the end.
I feel like that's pretty spoiler-tacular, and it's only, basically one page. So we'll talk about that next issue when it actually gets addressed. For now, suffice to say, there's a big reveal at the end. It is intriguing.
So, Miles, I'd ask what our issue of the week is, but it seems like it's probably pretty obvious.
No, it isn't, because this week, The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, number 3, written by Ryan North, with art by Erica Henderson, and also Doc Shaner for the trading cards, and colors by Rico Renzi, came out. Okay, so I don't know if we've talked much about The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, but this is probably the comic I enjoy most that's being published right now.
I think it's been Book of the Week at least once before.
It probably has, but this book it's hilarious. It is one of the funniest comics I've read in my life. This issue issue in particular is notable because it features Doctor Doom as a major character.
He appears pretty. He's a central Squirrel Girl antagonist.
Well, right, but he is very central to this issue, and specifically his ego is on great display, which I personally always enjoy. So if you haven't been following Squirrel Girl, this is actually part of a continuing story, but it's only on issue 3, so you could easily pick up the first couple digitally or whatever. Highly, highly recommended. It's not an X book. They officially said she wasn't a mutant, but this book is great.
Yeah, it's an absolutely delightful series, and it's a really good all-ages book, too.
Absolutely. Okay, so that being said, what's our panel of the week?
Our panel of the week, I'm going to go back to Extraordinary X-Men number 4 for this one, is this panel. There's not a lot going on with it, but it's just a really, really good moment before the fight starts.
Yeah, I think the creative team on this book has had a little bit of trouble grasping Storm, but for me, this moment was just like, yes, that is Aurora Monroe. I 100% believe this.
Yeah, Aurora Monroe is 100% done with this.
That's it for this week. Thanks for watching.
If you like what you've seen here, but think it would be way, way better without the faces in the way, listen to our podcast, Rachel and Miles Explain the X-Men. New episodes come out every Sunday at rachelandmiles.com, also on iTunes and Stitcher, and we've got a big one coming for you this week.
We do. This is our 2nd annual Giant Size Winter Special, which is our 3rd Giant Size Special ever for those keeping count. There was a summer one, and it's full of things!
That's right. We've got not 1, not 2, but 3 surprise guests. The Super Doctor Astronaut Peter Corbeau Awards for Excellence at Excellence, acknowledging the best of X books of the year.
And at long last, you guys, we are starting Excalibur.
That podcast, these video reviews, and everything at rachelandmiles.com are brought to you by our Patreon subscribers. We are an entirely listener-supported project. We are entirely ad-free, and those things are made entirely possible by the ongoing support of those of you who subscribe to us at Patreon. You are awesome, you are amazing, and if you want to join those awesome, amazing ranks, which you totally should, you can do that via the link either above or below this video, depending on where you're watching it.
In the meantime, we will see you next week, and happy holidays!